By the end of this video, you're gonna become a fan of a chess player you didn't know before watching this video. Yesterday, he was praised in a tweet by none other than Sir Vishy Anand and Garry Kasparov mutually just praised this guy. He's up 25 rankings since the beginning of November 2025 when this is being recorded in mid-November, and is up 20 elo. In the last year, he has grown 101 rankings. That doesn't even sound real to say. To the rank of 53rd in the world currently. Jose Martinez Alcantara, originally born in Peru, he moved to Mexico for change of nationality and is now competing in the strongest and hardest chess tournament in the world right now. And he is having the performance of a career in a year of a lifetime. He's grown over 50 elo this year at the 2600 level and is now grazing the top 50 in the world. So why is this happening? What's the reason for all of this growth so suddenly? Well, you see, Jose Martinez has been a prolific chess player online, specifically in Blitz and Bullet, in which he's top 50 in both of those categories in the world. Although he did not receive the opportunities to play some classical chess consistently, especially before this year. Upon moving to Mexico and switching nationality, he gained a sponsor which let him play a lot of classical chess tournaments this year and is the reason for his big growth. Earlier this month, he made his second debut in the World Cup. Think of the World Cup like the Hunger Games of chess. Every round, half the participants are eliminated and they go home. And he has been tearing it apart in the World Cup. He's disqualified 4 people and has made it to round 5. The last 2 of which were major upsets. Today, I'm gonna cover 5 of his games from the World Cup, which has allowed him to gain 20 elo and place close to 50th in the world, becoming the second South American-born player to reach the top 50 in the 21st century. Like, okay. So round 1, he's a major favorite against this candidate master 2100, a kid from South Korea. And in round 2, he plays strong Serbian grandmaster Velimir Ivic, who's 2600s. And in the first 2 classical legs, they draw, so they make it to tiebreaks. And the tiebreaks now is 2 rapid games, 15 plus 10. They draw both of those 2, so they get into 10 plus 10 rapid tiebreaks, in which each player has 10 minutes on the clock. They draw both as well. They're on 6 draws and they make it to the pre-final Armageddon, which is 5 plus 3 blitz to decide the match. 2 blitz games decides whether you have to go home or you stay in this tournament. And in that first blitz game, Jose Martinez plays 4 brilliant moves in 5 moves. Starting in this position, after knight a6 attacking his rook, Jose Martinez plays rook e7, sacrificing a rook, but really not really, because this pawn fork will just win a full piece back. So after takes, rook takes, white will be up a piece. And so now, Jose Martinez has basically unlocked an immortal rook. You can never touch this rook on e7. And so black plays king g8, d6. This pawn is rushing to d7 to try to thrust rook e8 and a mating net at that, so rook a b8. And now d7, sacrificing a rook a second way, a second time. And now knight c7. Bishop c6, defending this pawn and preparing some thrust of rook e8. And now black is running out of moves. So now knight e6. And now he plays king e2 with a brilliant idea. Jose wants to scale his king up the board. So d3 check, king takes, and now bishop t4. And now Jose finds rook takes c6, sacrificing a rook for 2 pieces and has pure domination on the board with the bishop pair and a pawn, and he's completely winning now. So king f7, and Jose has this very nice idea, king e5. He's scaling his king up the board, and his king is defending the pawn, but that's not the end of the journey. Rook g8, king d6, rook g4, king c7, and now the king is attacking the rook and threatening d8, and Velimir Ivic resigns. The next game they draw, and Jose Martinez qualifies to round 3, in which he's playing quite literally a final boss. 8th in the world, Nordirbek Abdusattorov, who's 2750. Super grandmaster, 8th in the world. Prime favorite to win the entire knockout tournament here. And Jose Martinez is a very cold human being, because against one of the favorites of the tournament who plays e4 on him, he goes for a very unpopular opening, and especially at this level, not recommended. He goes for 1d6. So 1d6 is a potential modern, is a potential Peertz here. But after d4, he goes for the Philidor defense, e5. Very rarely played. I looked through all of Norderbeck's games with white. He faced this only once in his life. This exact position, only faced this once in his life, 10 years ago on chess.com in like a blitz game, and Norderbeck was 2000 ELO blitz. It's like he hasn't seen this in 10 years. Like kind of crazy. So knight f3, now we transpose to more known stuff. I mean, Jose, he used like a very particular move order here, which is interesting, but it transposes to some very normal stuff after knight c3 here, and we get a typical Philidor that is not really a very well-known opening. So we move on in the game, and so objectively this is equal, or very, very strong engines have found a way to equalize here. But the white pieces have very practical advantages. The amount of space, the development, space, 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 space again. And now we have a very interesting situation in which both kings are castled opposite from each other, so we expect pawn storms on each side to colonize the opponent's king. And that's exactly what Jose does. a6, he's trying to go b5, and Norderbeck is trying to go g4, b5, g4. Okay, so c5 attacking the queen, but we concede a big weakness here, and that's the concession, this backward d6 pawn. So b4, knight d5, we trade, and now bishop e6, and here Norderbeck comes up with a brilliant idea. He plays the astounding move bishop c4 here, sacrificing the exchange for pure dominance over this position. And he's sacrificing full exchange here, Norderbeck genius, for quite literally the best light squared bishop you've ever seen in your entire life. The bishop on d5 is an absolute beauty. Eyes on the king, eyes on the rook, perfect for this attack. What a beautiful piece. And best part of all, you can't knock it off the board. There's no c6 pawn move, e6 pawn move that can get to this bishop. So this bishop is strong forever. So Jose plays rook c8, and now Jose comes up with a very nice idea. He goes for c4, king b1, queen a5, h4, and now rook c5. And the idea behind this is that a few moves later, he wants to sacrifice the exchange back to Norderbeck. He's saying, look, your bishop is too strong. You're going g6 next, which I can't stop because of this pin. I have to sack my rook back on your bishop and try to equalize. So Norderbeck takes back, but he has a clear spatial advantage, and he's the only one guiding a super strong attack here. I mean, Jose has some b3s, but I'm not believing it. So Jose is assuming Norderbeck's advantage and attack, and now it doesn't get so clear after this bishop e3, queen moves, and now bishop d4. And so Norderbeck is going for this queen f4, queen f6, which would be game over because queen h8 is imparable. So rook e8 attacking the queen, and after queen f4, Jose comes up with one of the most brilliant defenses that Norderbeck maybe probably missed because it's the only move for black here. So queen f6 is the clear threat, but Jose comes up with this beautiful f5. He's preventing queen f6 and blocking it, and if you want to infiltrate with the white pieces, the only way to do so is with g takes f6, threatening f7, which would be winning. But now Jose takes back the pawn and defends f7, and a move later, he shows why this is entirely safe for black and in fact equalizes king f7, rendering the bishop and queen absolutely useless in their attacking motives because of their own pawn. Sigbert Tarrasch, I believe, said, the best defender for a king that's being attacked is the enemy's pawn, which we are seeing in full-blown effect right here. So queen g4, and a few moves later, we get this very interesting position. Jose has regained the attack here, and Norderbeck still has nothing. So it's like all the cards are on Jose Martinez's side. And for the next moves, I don't know what happens, but Norderbeck 100% underestimates Jose's winning plan here. Try to pause the video. It's a good exercise, a strategic exercise for black. Black has the very, very nice and provoking a5. It seems innocent, but after rook h4, a4, black is completely winning. Bishop takes pawn, a little greed. And now a takes b3, and suddenly Nordebek realizes he's completely losing here. Because if he takes with the pawn, there's simply queen d3 attacking this bishop and threatening rook e2, winning a queen, so this is over. And so the king has to take the pawn, that means. But now Jose has rook b8 check. Okay, if you go here, I have queen d5, king here, and this is mate with queen b1 next. And if you take, queen a8 is mate. So after rook here, there's some d5 check, and we're going to pick up this rook with mate. So rook check, so the rook defends. And now Jose pulls this nice finesse, queen e6 check. And he had two options, queen d5 and queen e6, but queen e6, you'll learn why, is way better very soon. After king takes a3, which is the only move here, Jose sees that queen d5 would be blocking this pawn, which would be blocking this bishop. Whereas queen e6 does not block this pawn, and thus this bishop can breathe. The lungs of this bishop. Oh my god, that must have felt so nice. So d5, and now this rook is pinned. Jose is winning in exchange. So queen f1, and now he plays d4. White flag by Nordebek, the 8th ranked player in the world, resigns in a total upset and is on a must-win in their second game. Reason is if bishop takes, we win a full rook, like game, right? And if the bishop goes back, rook check, king here, takes, queen a2 check, king here, and queen a1, we pick up the queen. In their second classical game, we'll go straight to the middle game here. Nordebek plays g5, and now takes, and Jose sees a rook sack. So he sacks the exchange for a pawn up, and now he's a pawn up for the rest of the game. And he already has a target on e6 that will become very, very interesting for him in a few moves. So he goes, okay, both players are down to seconds, so these moves don't really matter. It's a lot of maneuvering, but we get to this interesting position in which these two pieces are anchoring on d6, and it's hard to defend it. You actually have to block it to be defending it. And now Jose takes on d6, and Nordebek plays queen f6. He's attacking this pawn, let's say. And if you take here, there's queen h6. So, and then f3, let's say, to get and queen f6 back. And this is exactly what happens, rook e3. And Jose only needs a draw to get to round 4. And so if you take here, Jose's very happy suddenly because he can take this knight, and now black is forced to take the draw here. Check, king f2, check. The rook can't go down because we take the queen, so the king is forced back, and this will be a perpetual draw. So Nordebek must have seen this in the seconds that he had, well, the minutes, and plays rook f8 here, denying the draw by repetition, but this queen takes d4 was the only move to even equalize. And now white is completely winning because they're a piece up and they took it in full. Nordebek saw this, in which he still has the same thing as last time, but now the knight is defended on f4, so there's no queen takes f4. But now he goes king f1, and he intends to sack a rook in full. But black can't take this rook because the queen would be off of g7, and now Martinez would have queen g7 himself and just checkmate in two moves. So Nordebek, after king f1, goes king b8. He's trying to get out of these check and mate. But this is too little too late. Jose now plays a beautiful interference tactic in chess. He sees that this rook is defending this knight, but that this knight's X-ray is directly pointed on this king, and he can interfere with this defense with knight f5. Beautiful move. The knight is now pinned, so there's no big stuff there, and this rook is defended. Like, this is a wizard move. You're a wizard, Jose. Queen e5, defending the knight. And now he goes queen g7, which effectively forces a queen trade, and black should resign. Because if you play queen c5 defending the rook, I have checkmate too. So Jose wins a second game, disqualifies world number 8, advances to round 4, and basically KOs world number 8. I mean, he KOs 2-0 against a 2750. And there's a 100-point ELO difference. This is a major upset in world classical chess. Like, major upset. And Jose makes it to round 4. And he's playing an ex-European champion, Alexei Saranya, who was 2023's individual European champion. And Alexei Saranya, like a year ago, was like 27-17. So ex-Super GM as well. And he's playing him with the black pieces, starting it off in their first game of their match. So no more jokes. Jose's number one reply to d4 is knight f6. This is a preparation masterclass. This game one is like insane prep. So he plays d5. So right off the bat, Alexei's a little bit surprised, at least a little bit surprised. And Jose's hidden weapon is his second. So a second in chess is someone who supports you, basically your coach. He offers you preparation. He tells you what to play. He prepares against your opponents with you. And his second is Pierluigi Basso, who's an Italian grandmaster and makes a lot of opening courses. So he's an opening genius. And so that's very good to have as your second. And we can see that in this game because after c4, he goes for e6. And Alexei Saranya, which I observed is quite a weakness, always goes for this knight c3 in this pattern. So I would say some inflexibility, but I quickly eat my words after c6 and Saranya plays e4, a move he very rarely does. So think of it this way. Jose usually goes knight f3 and instead goes for a triangle system, which he never plays. And then Saranya plays a counter prep on the double prep that Jose played. Because e4, Saranya had this once in his life against a 1900 over the board, and he had this 6 times online. This is not a predictable outcome of an opening. So it's a complete mess already. And we get into one of the roughest, one of the sharpest, one of the coolest gambits in all of chess. Yes, some gambits are played at the very, very high levels, and this is one of them. This is called the Marshall Gambit, not to be confused with the Marshall attack out of the Ruy Lopez opening. So this is the Marshall Gambit, bishop b4. Not yet. It's not yet the Marshall Gambit. White can go for this forgotten line, this knight c3, which is super passive and super boring, but both players are very fun. Players in this competition are playing for absolute wins, so you're not going to often see dry draws, which I hate about classical chess and is one of the reasons I love this event more than any top chess event in the world ever. I don't cover these big events usually in chess. This is the only one I'm covering this year, and it's my second video where I'm covering a top event. It's because they're playing chess like this. They're playing chess to slit the opponent's throat. Bishop d2. And this is the gambit. He's allowing black to take this pawn and basically be a pawn up, but white has a nice advantage in development, but also a queen that's very kickable and very vulnerable in the center. The queen is not necessarily centralized in this position, if you know what I mean. So knight a6 and bishop a5. And what I did observe is that Saranya, within the Marshall Gambit, plays this in a very straight line. So you remember I told you he has 6 games from the position e4? Well, he has 6 games from the position bishop a5, which means he plays always the same time with this opening. So bishop a5, and Martinez, knowing this, remained in prep for another 10-ish moves. And so here the main move is b6, kind of by far, but a trend in recent years, I've played this since I'm young, by the way, since I'm like, I remember I had a game in 2017 against a now prodigy of Canadian chess, like one of the leading like kids who's like an IM 15 years old. And I won that game and we had something like b6 here. But since then, I haven't seen new developments in this opening, but this is one of them. Pawn to f6. So white is threatening checkmate in 1, b6 to block the bishop, but f6 to anticipate queen d8 and king f7 is a new trend nowadays and is almost as popular as b6 nowadays, which is insane. And so knight f3, like pure development, b6 attacking the bishop, and now knight d2 attacking the queen, which has to move first, and now the bishop must move. But no, he plays bishop h5 first, g6 attacking the bishop, bishop f3 attacking this, and now queen e5 check. The king moves to f1, queen c7 defending the c6 pawn, and after bishop c3, e5. And here you're going like, Zach, you're going way too fast. Give me a break. Give me a breather. No. They're still in book. They're still in opening theory, and you can know that by the times. They haven't spent any time on their clocks. And Jose is so in book, he references the game of which he's mimicking with black here. He says it's Mithraba Guba against Sam Shanklin, which happened this year, I believe, or last year. Very recent game. That game went e5, knight e4, bishop f5. He plays it instantly. Look at his clock. It's like 1 hour, 34 minutes. He's spent 0 time since the beginning of this game. He's played this as a bullet game. Knight d6 check, king f8. And in that same game, knight d6 was a mistake. So in his model game, Jose, he saw knight d6 and he said, that's a possible mistake that white can play. The main move is queen a4, targeting c6 here and this knight. So knight d6 is played, great minds think alike, and king f8, and now black is better. This is still prep. We're 17 moves in. Knight takes f5, g takes, and you can see that clearly Saragna's, he played a mistake, so he's out of book, but he's suffering a little bit because he has to find out the best moves, whereas Jose has the answer key to all the best moves. So queen a4, attacking this pawn. And now Jose plays knight c5, intending to give back the pawn. Remember, black is up a pawn here, like from the very, very beginning. So he intends to give back a pawn for some activity and some compensation and basically a small advantage if he can. So that's what he's doing. He's pressuring the queen and trying to force a queen trade so that after bishop takes, he can take the file. He's first at the file. It's bishop pair for knights, but black has a wicked pawn mass in the center, and you'll see how crazy this pawn mass is. Usually you'd prefer the 3-on-2 over the doubled pawns and 2 pawn islands 4-on-3 here. But this king is unsafe, so there's going to have to be some pushes, some overextension maybe from the black pieces, and these pawns are going to be rushing and pressuring this king. So it's too early to tell. And this is the first move where Jose is out of prep. He didn't remember whether it was rook c8 or rook d8 here. But he played rook d8. Very logical move, still taking up the file. And what ensues now for the next 20 other moves is pure domination. The bishop goes back to f3. Jose is now scaling his knight up the board for knight h4, knight f4, some e4 things in the future. And now Alexei is like, look, I'm playing a rook down, so I got to get my king in the game so my rook gets in the game. And so he does just that, rook d3 forking both bishops, but after rook e3 defending everything, rook d8. And now Jose is the owner of the file, doubles rooks on the file. Bishop e2, pressuring this rook to make a decision. The rook goes back, and now rook g1. I don't know why rook g1 is played. It was rook g1 or h4. So already we can see Jose's style. He's kind of making the opponent crumble on their own position. And we saw that in the tiebreak game in which, black in that game was running out of moves more and more. And this is the case here. Knight e4. The bishop goes back to e1, and now knight d2. If bishop takes, rook takes, and this infiltration is perfect. Like, things are going to fall. White has 0 counterplay. This is still completely passive here. Black has a clear advantage. So the king has to go to g2, and now he goes for f4. So f4, triggering some potential f3 with a fork. And Saragna plays rook c3, and after this e4 with f3, real threats now of a fork winning a full piece, white finds himself in a tough position. You can either try for f3, after which this knight e5 is completely pressuring, or played in the game was bishop g4, and now this rook d3 is completely tranquilizing. So rook c2, knight e5 attacking this. And now Jose says to himself, yeah, black has to be better after knight e5. He did say this in an interview. So bishop f5, knight back to d3, just continuing the dominance of the position. Saragna sees that if he does comply and move his rook here, there's knight d4 forking these 2 pieces. And if bishop takes, let's say, with somewhat of a desperado, knight takes, bishop takes, we're just up a full piece. So instead, he plays bishop takes pawn, and after knight takes, bishop takes the exchange. And he's saying to himself, after knight takes bishop c3. And now white is clearly equalizing because this knight is completely trapped and is going to be taking the next move. So white would even be up a pawn, I believe. But here Jose plays the very nice, he doesn't take, he plays the very nice knight gf3. So now everything's attacked. And so the bishop has to move. This was the clearly dominant threat with a fork ensuing, and now takes. And black is up a piece, and a few moves later, Saranya resigns. And Saranya now is on a must-win with the black pieces in the next game to save the match, to stay in the entire FIDE World Cup. So now strategy of the match, Jose is on a must draw or win, so he has the option to draw, so he's playing for a 2-result game, and sure enough, Saranya chooses the Sicilian defense. Like the most cutting-edge opening. If you want to try to play for a win, you play the Sicilian, right? So actions speak louder than words here. Knight f3, knight c6, and now Jose goes for c3 the Alapin, which offers some good drawing chances in some lines, and that was part of the strategy of his match. All due to his coach, I'm pretty sure, who navigated that decision. So knight f6, e5 attacking the knight, and now d4. This is a classic Alapin Sicilian. C takes bishop c4, the knight goes back, and now the bishop goes to b3. And here, Jose is very nicely pressuring Alexis Saranya, who has only 2 moves to equalize d6 and d5. It transposes. White will take here anyway. So d6 is played, and after takes, Jose goes castles. And now black has not that many options. I mean, the only move to equalize is bishop e6, and it leads to almost a dead draw, which clearly Saranya has to choose against. The reason why it leads to a clear draw is that after all these trades happen, there's no big imbalances, a lot of pieces are traded off the board, and it's a very clearly drawn position very close to it. So Saranya is forced to make a decision here that will give white a small edge, and plays the not so anticipated move d3 here. And now Jose's out of prep, but he needs to find like the best move to claim the advantage. And so d3 is a mistake, but unless you know why it's a mistake, it's a very tough position to navigate. And it all stems by finding the idea that this knight is quite out of play here on b1 and will be for at least 2 moves. But the square is not e4 nor c4 to reach, it's actually b5 with some threats on c7. And Jose goes for knight a3. And if a6, there's some knight g5 attacking this, e6, queen h5, and white has a lot of juice here, like g6, queen f3. I like this for white. It's +1 too, so that helps. Knight e5 and some queen f6 here, and this is +1, like black is playing for an absolute must-win, so knight a3, bishop f5 is played, overprotecting d3, strong pass pawn, right? So knight b5 attacking the queen, queen goes back, and now bishop f4, and this is the target on c7. And so Jose thought a long time here because of e5. So black gives back a pawn, but it's a very vulnerable position. It opens the e line on the king. It's a complete mess. But Saranya here plays rook c8, which is a completely losing mistake. And after only 12 moves here, Jose is winning in a must draw or win game. And Jose plays knight takes a7, sacrificing a knight for the sole purpose of this e5 square. So if you don't take, I'll just be up a pawn. Rook here, I might just take here. So knight takes, knight e5, and now we can see a very nice fork of 2 vulnerable targets in the black position. Queen b5, still defending that pawn with every might. And here, I was watching this live, and I can tell you, it's extremely difficult to win this. I had no engine on. I had only the eval bar, which is sort of an engine. So the eval bar tells me it's winning, but I have no clue what's winning here. Because after knight here, okay, let's calculate together. Knight takes, attacking the rook. It's defended by the bishop, right? So rook g8. What do you do? Like I thought rook e1 to threaten knight d6, and this pawn is pinned, and you would win the queen with a triple row of fork, but then e6, and then this bishop is defending this square. So then I was thinking, okay, bishop takes f7, check, and then once the king moves, you move back. So he plays this, which I'm agreeing with. We're threatening knight f7. The king's uncastled. Mission accomplished. We gained a pawn. We have 2 pawns for the piece. But still, the compensation's not that obvious. Because I was thinking of bishop g4. And like, what does white play to win here after bishop g6? Sorry, preventing knight f7 with a fork. What does white do? And white has this superb combination a4. So trying to get the queen off this pawn. If the queen goes to c5, we can just trade here and play queen takes d3 and take this. And this is, quite frankly, this is over. Like knight d7, rook d1, with ideals of taking here and queen f5. This is +5. Takes bishop e6, and pack your bags to go back to Serbia, right? So bishop g6, a4. What if the queen stays on this d3 pawn? So now we can't take, and queen takes d3. But here there's queen g4. Once again, it's a very common theme today, and I feel like this is how many 2600s win. It's by pure domination and getting an objectively winning advantage, and then eventually the opponent has to collapse because it's +4, and you're either choosing between losing a piece this way or losing a piece or 3 pawns this way, right? And then that's the source of your advantage. And I feel the same way in this game. It's like white has everything. Black has absolutely nothing. Crumbled king, everything. Everything's falling. Everything's terrible, right? But there's no direct win at all. It's an extremely sharp position, and you can't let black seep their way through back into the game. But Saranya here plays king e8, assuming a completely lost position and offering a draw. And they repeat, and Jose Martinez qualifies to round 5. And Jose will be playing the winner of Nils Grandelius against Pentala Harikrishna. Pentala's game, which I covered recently, will be linked right up here. And we might see Pentala, who's playing the hottest chess, against the hottest man in chess right now, which would be exhilarating stuff. This just in, moments after I turned the camera off, Pentala Harikrishna has qualified. So Jose Martinez against Pentala Harikrishna, the 2 only players that I have covered in the FIDE World Cup, will play against each other in the next round, round 5, starting after tomorrow. Insane.